Welcome to Grab a Coffee Podcast. My name is Simon Kasiate, and with my usual partner in crime,
Raymond Mujuni. I've gotten it right.
No. It's Mujuni.
It's Mujuni. Yes, Mujuni. Raymond Mujuni.
Tremendous. And yes, today marks a very special edition of this podcast where we are venturing into the humanitarian sphere of international development. And we couldn't be more excited with any other guest but the one that we have with us here today. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce our guest. Joining us today is Ms. Lauren Landis, Country Director for the United Nations World Food Program in Uganda. Welcome to the podcast, Lauren.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today.
Not more than ourselves, but here we go. Lauren has been a champion for youth, women, and innovation solutions within the international development landscape to address issues of food insecurity and end hunger. She has recently been posted to lead the WFP's mission in Uganda, where WFP in Uganda reaches over 2 million people, providing life-saving food and cash assistance to vulnerable people, including refugees and host communities, while at the same time delivering food meals, supporting nutrition programs, helping smallholder farmers build resilience, and strengthening national social protection systems to tackle food insecurity in a country hosting Africa's largest refugee population. This would never have been more timely, and we're just more than glad that we have you, Lauren, to start off with the conversation.
Thank you very much.
So I now leave the skinning to my partner in crime, who's Raymond. I do the nice formal bells and whistles, and then he comes in for the jugular.
Okay, the scary questions.
Scary questions. Okay, we'll start with a simple one, which is, if you're the country director of World Food Program, everyone knows you for giving out food.
Yeah.
What's your coffee like? How do you make your coffee for your own self?
Okay. Well, you have to understand that I've lived around the world. And so I've picked up a little bit from each place.
Okay.
So one, I love coffee. There's probably 3 cups in the morning just to get the whole process going. Yeah. But I have to say it's a French press.
Yes.
Yeah. So that part came from living and growing up or doing some of my university in France. The coffee inside is usually Italian, Lavazza. Mm-hmm. And I understand from the Italian ambassador here in Uganda that means that my coffee is 75% Ugandan.
Yes, I was just about to say that fast.
I feel good about that.
Yeah.
And I like it strong, but with a bit of milk, I have to say.
Just to change the color. You don't want it all black.
Yeah, a little bitter first thing in the morning.
This is, I think, where we depart. But okay, if you just give us a sense of your morning, what's your morning like when your feet hit the ground in the morning? Yeah. What are you thinking about? Do you wake up thinking World Food Program? Is that it?
Well, I'm one of those terrible early risers. Like I couldn't even sleep. Sleeping past 9 o'clock, even on the weekend, would just be impossible for me. I'm usually up 5:30, and I do wake up thinking, what's today about? Yep. But I try and exercise every single morning because I know that the day's going to be chaotic. And it probably won't get done if I wait until after work. So I kind of, give it that push, which is probably why there's 3 cups of coffee.
Now we understand. You've only been here 3 months. And, you may wish to give us a sense of what your typical day looks like onto this new role.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of the first 3 months meeting people, as you would expect. All of our donors. We have wonderful embassies and ambassadors. Mm-hmm. And I've really tried to reach out and meet all of them and understand what they do in Uganda. We work with a lot of development partners, a lot of NGOs. Mm-hmm. And so reaching out, meeting the local and international NGOs has been a lot of fun. I've done a lot of meetings with NGOs. And then, of course, government. They have been very welcoming, very receptive. I've been able to very formally present my credentials to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. But I've also met several state ministers and ministers of agriculture, ministers of education. And they all are extremely welcoming, and really look forward to working with the World Food Program here.
If you could help us just rewind the clock a little bit, take us back what kind of household did you grow up in? What kind of schools did you go to? What were you passionate about in school?
That's a big jump from the last question.
You need to understand how you jumped into food, most of World Food Program.
Okay. No, I'm from the United States of America and grew up in a very basic middle-class family in what we call upstate New York. So you're thinking New York City, high-rises.
Exactly. Fifth Street.
Think Lake Ontario, close to Canada, with lots of really harsh winters. That's how you think about it. And my father worked for Kodak, right?
Oh, the camera company.
That no longer exists.
The one with films.
Yeah. He was an engineer for that company. And lots of times people ask me, why do you focus on innovation in your work? And I say, well, I think Kodak missed the key innovation, which was digital photography.
Absolutely.
And one thing I've always said, since my father had to take very early retirement, that, you know what, Lauren, don't miss those innovations as you go forward. So that's been a focus there.
If I may also be a bit presumptuous from what you just say, you seem to have been quite a daddy's girl, taking particular close attention to his professional career path of growth and development, and also using that to inform your current path of development. That's all.
Yeah, I guess so. He was really the driver. And so we tried to live up to his standards.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm sure as fathers yourselves, you know how that is. Yeah.
Yes, it's. I wake up. I've got two of them, so I wake up every morning thinking just about them. How can I shape them?
And how to provide food for them.
And how to provide food.
Yes, but so. Where did you come from before you got the World Food Program role in Uganda? Where were you when you got the news? What did you think when you got the news?
At that time, would you have pinpointed Uganda on the world map? Like, right there.
Yeah. Well, most recently, I was the country director in Kenya. So I definitely could find Uganda.
Yeah.
And I've been here before. I've been up to Karamoja in 2016, 2017, when I was working as also for the World Food Program as the director of nutrition. And so, of course, I made a trip to Karamoja. And so I had a warm, happy feeling about coming to Uganda.
Well, that's interesting. And when you got the role, what were some of the things that you thought of first and say, this is maybe something I might try and do in Uganda, and this is something I might try and change in Uganda? And have you had any adjustments in that regard?
Yeah, well, I will admit that I probably thought it was a bit too much. I thought it was like Kenya. And when I landed here, I found that it was very different in many ways. And not just because the fruits and vegetables are much better, but I found
Kenyan friends may not take you back.
Yeah, they might not take me back.
Yeah.
But it had a very different vibe and a very different focus, really, in where things are going. So some of the bigger, broader structures are the same, but I needed to learn. And so one of the things you asked, what did I do when I first arrived, was really travel to the field. And as you know, the World Food Program works throughout this country, mostly in refugee
settlement areas
as well as Karamoja. And so I've managed to go to our 3 different area offices in the different parts of the country, talk to district government, spend a lot of time interrogating our staff and really learning the nuances and differences and where we need to go.
Okay, that's very interesting.
It looks like she's been here for a whole year. I mean, you have so much in 3 months.
Yeah, there's few Ugandans who've actually left the city Kampala to go out. So you've done a little bit more than many Ugandans. But I wanted you to also speak a little bit about the kind of cultural adjustments from Kenya to Uganda. What are some of those areas you think? These are places where there's a difference either in approach, a difference either in culture, a difference in the problem itself that you're trying to solve.
Oh, okay. Not just about the city.
Not just about the city.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in terms of city, we have like 1.2 million bodas.
Yeah.
And there's definitely more than there are in Kenya, but they definitely beat you on matatu. So, those kinds of things make...
Maybe the music from the matatu. I was a bit quiet and rickety, but...
And you're driving, although in sort of flows, is a bit gentler, right? I don't feel the aggression of the matatu. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in how do I say it? The work is different as well. You know, there's refugee camps in Kenya, but they're camps. They're not settlements.
Yes.
And they're much rougher places to live if you were to come. Let's put it this way. If I become a refugee in East Africa,
The best place to
I'm coming to Uganda, right? Beautiful living conditions. You're provided in a unique strategy with a really opening refugee policy with land. Okay, it may get smaller and smaller the more refugees that come in, but it's like productive land and fertile, and you can grow vegetables, and so
and easily incorporate yourself within the host communities because the people are hospitable.
You don't even know when you travel. I think yesterday I was in Arua and I went to a refugee settlement, but I thought I was in a village.
Okay.
From someone from the outside, you couldn't tell the difference. And that's wonderful, really wonderful.
And yet, for some reason, you know, we have a lot of fertile soil, of a lot of land at our disposal. One of the problems for which you're going to be solving most of the time is school feeding.
Yeah.
Being able to get these fertile lands to feed children. How much is that of a problem from where you sit as World Food Program?
Well, you know, actually, I just see opportunity and potential. WFP's been doing school feeding in Karamoja, I think, for 40 years. Maybe it's greater. We've got about 255,000 kids that are in school feeding programs every single day. That's really impressive. But did you know that we feed those schools with food grown in Karamoja?
Oh.
We're talking about 10 tons a day. That's like 200 bags of food. And so we're creating as well a sort of circular economy that's really, I think, really cool. We call it in WFP homegrown school feeding. But basically what it means is that local farmers build the food, grow the food,
sell it
or to the school. The school cooks it. Kids eat it. They have a productive day. They learn more. And local farmers also create an income. So you've got economic development in there. You've got healthy meals for kids. And you've got improved education. So it's something that's entirely sustainable that helps the local economy as well as the kids in that environment.
Raymond, you notice when she's speaking about, school feeding and school meals, she is with this glorious, passionate, expression on her face. And that reminds me that, earlier on last year, the First Lady, who is also the Minister of Education, did announce that Uganda is going to have its own school feeding program. And from where you sit, your school feeding program, the government's announcement, the social and economic transformation it portends, let's marry them together and paint for us a picture what you think that will look like. Will it be such an exponential magic bullet out of poverty for many people?
It is you have hit the nail on the head. This school feeding policy, and it's really quite well prepared. I don't know if it has some clearances or things to go through yet within government, but when that's established, it takes all of the lessons learned of 40 years from Karamoja and could take it nationwide. Wow. You know, there are so many kids in school that could really benefit from a school meal. And school meals, they're in my country. It's not just something for a lower income or middle income country. All schools around the world, Sweden has school feeding programs, and it's really a way to make sure that kids go to school and have that same potential to learn. They're not learning on an empty stomach as every other kid. So if we're able to help Uganda develop a school meals policy and then work from the lessons learned in places like Karamoja and adapt it and adopt it to all the different communities around Uganda, this could really have such learning potential. We know it increases enrollment in kids, right? Karamoja, we can see it. It's. I think I have the numbers here. Karamoja school attendance went from 65% to 71% was
Just like this.
Just like that. And it stays there as long as the meals are there. So it allows you to almost immediately increase attendance. Then you've got to make sure kids learn, but that they don't learn on an empty stomach. And if you can connect that to the local economy where farmers are also earning an income, you really have a magical set of a base, a platform for a lot of development around the country. And just think if you could do that throughout Uganda. No kid went to school, or no kid came home from school hungry. Wow.
Raymond and I normally love to follow the money, and we know that for such an ambitious but well-intentioned program, it requires money. Yes, WFPU seem to be deep pockets. We don't know, but we know about the government of Uganda and its ability to finance many of its otherwise well-meaning, ambitious projects. Do you, for a moment, look at financing for this as one of the bottlenecks you're going to find in the future when it's all implemented? And if so, any interventions from your end that you're preparing for?
Yeah. Financing, making it a permanent line item in a government's budget is difficult for every government. And when things get bad, they want to raid that government, that line item.
That particular line, yes.
Yeah. We know it. Election year, certain, crisis that comes, you want to raid that line item. But most countries, and 90% of them around the world, are able to fund it. They may start out small, maybe slightly inconsistent, but they usually see the benefits. Educated kids makes an educated workforce. It lowers the amount you spend on healthcare, right? All of these things we've seen around the world of school feeding can have a positive impact in the long term. So yes, it will be difficult for Uganda. It's been difficult for every other government. Sometimes you start with just a piece that you can cover, and then you expand it. But can I tell you something that I just have to say out loud? There's this thing called Karamoja feeds Karamoja. So one of the least developed regions in all of Uganda has made the first contribution to the World Food Program. They have said, and I don't know what it is in Kenyan shillings, you'll have to do the math for me.
We'll do the Ugandan shilling.
But about $130,000. That's substantial.
Oh, that's close to 500 million Ugandan shillings.
Wow. So the government of Uganda, through the office of the Prime Minister, the Ministry for Karamoja Affairs, has made a significant contribution to the World Food Program to do the mechanics of buying the local food and making sure it gets to the schools. Okay? So that they can feed their own children with their own agricultural production. Now, if one of the least developed regions in Uganda can do that and make a commitment for 4 or 5 years, it's possible anywhere else. It just takes leadership and commitment and drive to see those benefits long term.
I'm just thinking with my policy hat on, and that is, Uganda has anywhere about 11 million children in school. If you decide to offer each of them at least one meal a day, it's 55 million meals you have to give out every day. And that could be very expensive on the government budget. Just help us understand. I know you've come from Kenya where a school meals program is working. If the government had to start, where do you start from? Do you fund 20% and look for partners to do the other 80%?
Yeah.
Or do you do a circular economy in which, you promise the farmers we will pay you, then the farmers supply? From a policy perspective, how do you imagine this might work?
Yeah. I think most countries, not only do they look for partners, and partners are there, particularly for a successful program, but they also look at where school attendance is the lowest. So where they could get the most rapid gains for increasing enrollment and a sustainable enrollment. And they start there. So often it's a place like Karamoja, which is some of the least developed. And when they see the success, then often other parts or other regional or district governments go, yes, I want that. I'll put in this if I can find partners to help me. And they work it together. So it's not something where you have to come up with the full line item on day one. Mm-hmm. I think going after where you could see the most rapid gains would be a great place to start.
Well, Lauren, I can understand your passion with regard to school meals, but I want to believe that there's a lot more about WFP programming in Uganda than school meals. You may just wish to paint for us a broad picture of exactly what it is that you've inherited as operations for WFP in Uganda. Because I'll be honest, we have this mental image of WFP. What you see is trucks with your logo WFP headed to desolate places. When we are devastated by war, floods, famine, there seems to be quite a lot more that you are doing, especially that Uganda is in considerably peacetime.
Not only are you in peace, you're nearly a lower and middle income country. So you really shouldn't need that emergency assistance from a place like the World Food Program. Mm-hmm. Our role now should be much more about enabling Uganda to take on those roles themselves, to have those trucks with food going to a flood-affected area or a drought-affected area. Also, the tools have changed, mm-hmm. Now you can send money to an affected population on their phone. So I think you're going to see a lot less trucks. But
okay.
You're
mobile money transactions than trucks. Okay.
But you're exactly right. Sometimes I say to people, we're not your grandfather's WFP. It's the one you remember with the, feeding refugees and responding in emergencies. Sure, we still do that. And we really work hard to maintain the flexibility that if there is an emergency that's beyond the capacity of government to respond, we're there. We're there right next to the Red Cross mm-hmm. or other partners to help. But really, because we see what's changing in Uganda, we want to change with it. So the demand to increase productivity, to enhance the productivity of smallholder farmers, to really focus on youth and women, to prevent malnutrition, not to cure it, but to prevent it. Mm-hmm. These are the kinds of things where we see ourselves much more involved.
Wow. And when you go to, you've mentioned Karamoja, for example, and Arua. When you meet the district government officials, what's the conversation like in terms of shifting their perspective towards enabling people in their communities to be able to feed themselves?
Really, I'm right lock sync with the district commissioners or the district officials. And what I really see is that it is we, the traditionally humanitarian organizations, that need to change our perspective. We're here to help districts. We're here to work on their development plans. And how can we do that jointly? But can I tell you a Karamoja story if we got time? When I was in Karamoja, I went to what people had told me was one of the most affected areas where people were really having trouble getting on their 2 feet and after they'd lost all their cattle and everything to raids and trying to take care of themselves and become self-sustainable. And so I was standing there in the rain. I'll never forget it. And there was an older gentleman, someone you would call Papa, and he was a community leader. He started speaking and he said, "Welcome to our community. We have no malnutrition here."
Wow.
very rarely do I go to communities where an older man starts with that
The positivity, the
positivity and with that success story. And he said, it's not been an easy trail. We've had lots of trouble, but because of the assistance that you gave us, you enabled us to start taking care of ourselves. And now we've achieved it. And our biggest challenges are now getting our excess produce to market, not malnutrition.
Wow.
Whew. I'll never forget it. I mean, that's the kind of story you want to hear.
And that speaks a lot to the kind of innovative engagements that you are now spearheading to say, look, we're moving into co-creation of opportunities, into working together on improvements to, the quality of food as well. Because, I mean, yes, we have fertile soils and all that. We know how to grow food, but sometimes you may need to get better crop yields. So sometimes the farmers may require better yielding seeds and all that. Is that a whole ecosystem that also keeps you awake at night in trying to put things together in that regard?
I don't think that's what encourages me, because I see such opportunities, right? I see such potential. What keeps me up at night is how can we get more resources focused at it?
Yeah.
How can we bring more to the table to take the kinds of good programming I see to scale? Because if you're helping one farmer group or even 100 farmer groups, you need to help 500,000 farmer groups to really increase wealth, to really increase productivity, and really be changing lives, which is what the World Food Program is about.
So, Raymond, you'll pardon me, I'm going to try and shake the hornet's nest a little bit with Lauren here and say, well, from my understanding, and I could be wrong, but your space, in as far as having the deep pockets that it used to have, increasingly gets shrinked because of different other conditions and circumstances, many of which are outside your realm of control. But how much does that bother you, that even when you have well-meaning programming as you do, and you'd want to pump in the required financing, but the purse is getting smaller and smaller because of world dynamics?
Yeah. That's what keeps me up at night.
Okay. Something must keep you away at night.
That is definitely.
And it certainly was not coffee.
I walked into this country, and even before I got here, they had to reduce the rations and reduce the number of refugees that receive a ration. We cut 1 million people off of rations.
Oh dear.
And that's a lot. And we're still monitoring. What does that mean about their coping strategies every day? Have they had to take kids out of school? Are they only eating 1 meal a day? What is the impact that that's having on their nutrition? Mm-hmm. So I'm focused on that. The resources that we had before, many of which came from my government in the United States, are no longer there. And I really don't think they're coming back. So that really forces you to think differently. And that's what I do when I stare at the ceiling in the middle of the night, is how can we do this differently? How can we take the smaller resources we have and use them to make those same refugees more self-reliant? How can we increase that productivity of smallholder farmers, because otherwise those same vulnerable host populations as well as refugees will have less to eat? So that's really where it is. In Uganda, there are so many countries that are generous donors. Really, I've been impressed. Countries that I've never seen provide assistance here in Uganda. The challenge is to use every single penny, shilling, franc as most effectively as possible, because we'll never go back to those very, very large contributions.
Yeah, wow. but Lauren, I mean, even if we never go back to those large contributions, one of the documents I read preparing for this was the World Feeding Report, and I was amazed at how more than 99% of the money that actually goes to school feeding programs comes from governments themselves. In countries where school feeding programs are working, private sector stepped up to say, there's a role we can play here. And I'm just interested to understand, you've noted very rightly, Uganda is now a lower middle income country. When you look around, the private sector is doing some massive things in Uganda.
Yeah.
Are you reaching out to them quietly and saying, we can work together? And what kind of pitch are you giving them? Saying, come to the table, this is what we can do together.
Yeah. I think where I like to work with private sector is where I see private sector can make our programming stronger and larger and help take it to scale. I was up seeing a project the other day where a private sector firm is really taking that production and bringing it to market, also providing those farmers with new technologies, whether it's testing their soils or solar or something, water irrigation, to help them more productive, but also linking them with a market. And I think that's one of the things that's going to really take us to the next level here in Uganda.
Are you bringing them in on the school feeding plan with government? When you engage government, do you tell them, private sector could be very important in this conversation?
This is something that they understand very, very well. Wow. I think this linkage of government, UN organizations or development partners, and government, private sector all together is where we're really gonna be the game changer. That's what it is, game changer.
Lauren, let's take you off the high horse of this very well-meaning, good-sounding phenomena and take you down to your office.
Okay.
Where you've now been 3 months. Of course, you find an office that has a mosaic of, expatriate staff from Nether. Then you also find the local agents here. Then you have field people that you work with affiliated to your office. Then, of course, you've got this arrangement with other community-based organizations, government. On the whole, this is just to ask you about the people. What's it like with the people? How do you find the people? How are you working with the people? And yes, are they looking at your shining star and say, here comes Lauren and we are going to kick this all out?
As I said in the beginning, Ugandans have been so welcoming. And that's all of them. From our most... I'm thinking of the 3 female drivers that took me around Aurora.
Wow.
To community groups that I have met in some of the most far-flung areas, to, of course, government and my staff in the office. They're always, want to make sure that you're liking Uganda and that you're having a good Ugandan experience, right? Yeah. And I have to say, Uganda is a country, I've never seen so many parties. I'm really worried because I don't think we go by a week in my office without a huge cake.
Yep.
There's always a cake.
Yes.
There's always a party. And even in difficult times, with lack of funding, we've had to downsize staff. Yet, even the goodbye parties are just amazing, right? We really see everyone come out. Staff associations contribute to farewell parties. So it's just really a warm, friendly, welcoming, and generous people.
With lots of food.
Lots of food.
Fresh food.
Keep going around. You mentioned something. You stay up staring at the ceiling all night. And that's a very good place to start for the question that I'm about to ask you. If you could make some dramatic predictions about where you might see Uganda maybe 10 years from now, what are some of those areas you think that Uganda is going to be massively good at 10 years from now?
I can offer just one.
Okay.
I believe from your experience and what you just said about our fresh fruits and vegetables, we will have more and better food in 10 years.
Wow. No, I think that'll be wonderful. And I think even using technology to not only increase the food, but the way you market it, One of the things I love here, just to be very personal, is I can order my fruits and vegetables online and there's beautiful pictures. I click and they arrive at my doorstep and they're as fresh as can be.
Yes.
And so that customer interface using technology, not just for home consumption, but also even for building markets and even international markets. I think there's a lot of potential there. I see energy and joy in youth, and you have such a young population that I think if we can find ways to bring together some of those components, then it will work exponentially. So I see a lot of promise in that area as well.
And what would you say at the end of your tenure? I know you've just started. We're already talking about the end. But if you could imagine the end of your tenure, what would you say you would want to be remembered for as having done in Uganda?
Yeah, I think that I would want to be remembered for really helping the World Food Program fit into Uganda's sustainable development projection, meaning that we're not just known as the
food basket of the
food
region.
basket that comes in an emergency,
Yeah.
but really a sustainable partner that's helping Uganda go where we all know it can reach, whether it's in school feeding, agricultural production, social protection, you name it, that we helped Uganda do it itself, right? We were part of where Uganda is going in that journey.
Well, Lauren, sorry, is a tradition on Grab a Coffee podcast that after we've had this serious, hard-nosed conversation, then we get off the set, head to the kitchen, and you brew us some of that coffee you talked about. And so, for purposes of those who are really enjoying the hard-nosed conversation, I'm sure they've gotten more than their fair share of exactly what you intend to do, what you are doing, what your projections are looking like, but also the hope with which you carry with you as you attend to this new assignment you have. So, Raymond, I think you'll agree with me that we say kwaheri for this
without a party. We will leave without a party. But we go and have the party.
Absolutely.
I didn't bring a cake. Oh.
Just grabbing your coffee is good enough. So from wherever it is that you're grabbing this podcast, whether it's on our podcast or other places, well, thank you. But now it's time to go for the next edition where now we literally catch a coffee with Lauren Landis, the country director for World Food Program in Uganda.